morning. Welcome to the September 8th, 2021 Curriculum Instruction Committee meeting. We will now come to order. And Dr. Cuppett, I assume no public comment has come in the last few minutes?
No public comment at this time. Anything that comes in here after we'll share at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. See, the minutes, are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I just had one thing on there on the attendees. It had Jay Johnson, J-A-Y, and it should be Mr. J or Jason. So that's it.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. He'll appreciate you catching that. And, okay, sorry. Too many technological things. Any comments at this time from board members? All right, we will move into the main presentation of health and physical education updates. Dr. Cuppett.
Well, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to have updates related to health and physical education. With us today are Brian Griffith, who's our secondary health and physical education curriculum specialist, and James Hitchner, who will be running the slideshow today. He's our elementary health and physical education curriculum specialist. So I thank them both for putting the presentation and being here. Some of the Family Life Advisory Council updates were shared at the full board, so we're not going to go into those in depth today and focus on health and physical education. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Brian and Jamie.
Thank you, Dr. Cuppett. This is Jamie Hitchner, your curriculum specialist for elementary health and physical education. And good morning to the members of the board and FCPS system leaders. Apologize that my camera is not functioning correctly, but we'll move through the presentation. Brian Griffith and I have a series of slides to share with you. We'll go back and forth, and we'll be happy to receive your questions at the end of the presentation. A couple items that we wish to discuss today, the pre-kindergarten through grade 12 health education updates, the pre-K through grade 12 physical education updates. We have some updates about adapted physical education, and we have some information about additional health and physical education teacher certification mandates. The first piece of information we have to share that we have is, and I'll yield this to Brian.
Thank you very much. You skipped one of the slides, Jamie.
I apologize. I'll take this from Brian. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The technology here is working. Okay. In two of the significant updates that we have going throughout the entire scope of pre-K through 12th grade health education continuum, we're now moving toward a focus in skills-based health education versus just a content only. So we'll be educating students through the new alignment of our grade 12 health essential curriculum. And that revised framework will now include information about core concepts, helping students to analyze influences, access information. We'll develop interpersonal communication through a health education curriculum. There's a decision-making piece, a goal-setting piece, and a piece on self-management as well as advocacy. So we'll be moving to the skills-based component in including the content as well. Okay, Brian.
Jamie, can I ask a real quick question before Brian starts, and you can both address this? You said something about they would be evaluating resources. Is that correct? Or students?
They'll be analyzing influences.
There we go.
And accessing information.
Because something I've been thinking about a lot lately, I think kind of plays into this. There's a lot of commercials on television that are telling you, don't cut Medicare, add to Medicare, don't let this happen to, prescriptions. A lot of it is very health related. And I look at those and I go, I scoff at them because I'm an adult and I have enough experience. And I know you need to look at who is putting this on. And so Is that the kind of thing that students would be asked to do?
They'll be checking to see if resources are reliable and credible. And so, and how that influences their decisions. So they're looking at ads like you just mentioned and checking the intent of the resource to make sure it was reliable and credible.
I truly think that is so important, and that we do in school and take every opportunity, is that critical thinking, and not just accepting, but questioning, being skeptical sometimes can be beneficial. So thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Brian Griffith. I'm the Secondary Health and Physical Education Specialist here with FCPS. I would like to address the previous question, accessing valid and reliable information. As Ms. Yoho said, it is something critical. I collaborate with Colleen Bernard on social studies, Sue Ann Noggle with English language arts, and Mary Jo Richmond on the media services side, so that we all kind of have a similar message when we're talking about that. And one of the tools that we use does address purpose, because we want students to look at the purpose behind the messages that they're sent. And as you just mentioned, commercials on TV, they are there to make money most of the time. They are a business that is sharing information, and we want to make sure that that information students understand the influences behind that, as well as the purpose that's coming from some of the companies and stuff. But I did, so the next slide here addresses the health education requirements. So not only did the state release a new framework for health education, but the state graduation requirements were also changed. So health education is now a full credit, and how we are decided to implement that in Frederick County is that we're splitting that up into 2 half credits. So our 9th graders will receive the Health 1 and be paired with Fitness for Life. Again, they are only term-based classes. And then 11th graders will be provided Health 2. And then again, my suggestion would be to pair that with another physical education elective. But the schools and some principals pointed out the fact that we do have students that may need credit recovery and things like that, which I do understand. So, but principals are in favor, and they do understand the value and importance of health and wellness for all of our students. So we will be looking at presenting the Health 1 and updated Health 1 and the Health 2 curriculum to the C&I committee this spring, hopefully field testing it next school year. And then the full implementation is 2023-2024. So that will meet the requirements for the students graduating in class of 2025. And one of the good things that the state did in working with multiple stakeholders is looking at equity, diversity, inclusion in health education as well, and to see how those things are actually impacting health decisions. Again, as Jamie said, decision making, the influences that are coming out, and advocacy as well. Making sure that as we are advocating for our health and the health and wellness of others, how are we doing that, and how are we supporting the community, the family, and businesses and schools as well. Thank you, Jamie. Next slide. So the physical education COMAR was also updated. So health and physical education has had a lot of things going on at the state level and collaboration. And Jamie and I were very happy to serve on a lot of those different committees. But one of the things that they wanted to make clear is that physical education should not be graded on dress or participation. We have a state curriculum, a state framework. We have essential curriculum at the local level related to physical education. And as students are in physical education, they should be taught those essential curriculum, the objectives within the FCPS essential curriculum, assessed on that, and everything else, instead of just grading kids on, hey, you participated today, good job, you get 10 out of 10. One of the other things is that most school systems did not offer high school physical education credit for junior ROTC, marching band. I'm going to compete in gymnastics at home or things like that. Because again, the goal of physical education is that physically literate citizen is that person that is there to support lifelong physical activity in different things. And we know most athletes, unfortunately, don't participate in those things beyond their competitive years. So, we know the percentage of high school students after they leave high school and then college and so on and so forth. And again, the statistics are about only 5% of adults truly participate in team sports. So that's why we need to look at how people want to be physically active, want to maintain their health and wellness, and how to support that. And that's what some of these COMAR updates have been looking at. And then finally, again, as we expand pre-K, looking at supporting our youngest students with health and wellness initiatives and activities as well. Thank you, Jamie.
Okay.
Oh, this one's mine as well. So one of the things that the board approved last year was looking at modifying our course for high school unified physical activity. And so our unified physical activity is a program that supports general education students with special education students all at the same time. And our general education students have been put in leadership roles once we started and created this course 8 years ago now. We've been running this course for 8 years now. And so what we wanted to do was to make sure that the course description and the expectations were similar to what was actually going on in practice in our buildings. And so we updated that information. All 10 of our high schools are doing that, and our adapted PE leaders, Emily Klauser and Liz Metz, led a leadership team in order to develop more resources. And again, this is something that they are constantly working, collaborating with special education, collaborating with our teacher leaders, and developing more and more resources in order to support our students in our unified physical activity program at the high school level. Thank you.
Okay. From the adapted health education side, we just wanted to give a quick mention here. Very excited to share that we've given a lot of different opportunities. I think, and I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm flipping slides. Apologize. Just mention how students with special needs are particularly the ones with cognitive or intellectual needs are often the students who struggle to advocate for themselves. So additional materials have been developed to support this type of need, both in physical education and health education. And again, I'd like to echo the shout out to our adapted PE teacher specialists. Emily Klauser and Liz Metz spearheaded this project in conjunction with a partnership with the Special Olympics of Maryland. Special Olympics of Maryland recently acknowledged Twin Ridge Elementary as the very first national banner school in terms of student leadership and whole school engagement with partnerships with their community. And they've developed a program there to support their young athletes that is sustainable over time. So we're really excited about the work that's been done here in this area with the work that's been acknowledged at Twin Ridge.
Jamie, we're still on the slide with adapted PE.
Again, as Brian mentioned, supporting our special education teachers and making the necessary modifications to support individualized learning. And one of the highlights to this new component is to develop core boards to support specialized programs and all learners in health physical education. The core boards are basically picture cards or illustrations that serve as visual cues for students, or even used as a communication device, key vocabulary, and that's tied into their core concepts of the essential curriculum. And Brian?
So some of the other stuff that we just wanted to remind the committee is some of the requirements that are
Having trouble with this audio.
Our health and physical education teachers are required to have. And so it is a FCPS policy that all health and physical education teachers are CPR certified. And then it is a practice that soon, hopefully, will possibly be in policy as well, that they're basic first aid. And again, this is just to support the students because, as most of you know, health and PE teachers are out in the fields. They're out working with students and everything else, and they're not close to the building sometimes. So we want to make sure that they are there and can support the students in any situation. And then another thing is that just as all of our coaches are required to be concussion certified every 2 years, the same thing with our health and physical education teachers. So this is a state law, and it was also reinforced in COMAR to make sure that our teachers are supporting in this and make sure that they have. And then on the health education side, it is mandated, and Jamie and I run these trainings, is that all teachers of health education do support and are trained in family life education and sexual abuse and assault prevention education. So those go to some of the topics that we do cover K through 8, and then the high school mandated courses as well. And then finally, the last one, which was in state law, and is substance abuse training as well. And again, with all the updated information related to heroin and opioids, most of these things, we do partner with the Frederick County Health Department that provides us resources, looks over our curriculum, and supports us in our professional development and training resources as well. Thank you very much.
And that concludes our presentation. At this point in time, we could be glad to receive any questions you might have.
Johnson, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a question regarding Mr. Griffith and Mr. Hitchner. How do you receive your family life and sexual abuse and assault training? So that you, like, what's the train the trainer program, as it were?
That's a great question. So we are lucky that we're part of a statewide collaborative, a professional learning network. We also, Frederick County also participated in the WISE, Working to Institutionalize Sex Education, and that is run by Advocates for Youth, and that's a national leader. So Nora Gelprin is our main contact person there, who has provided us with resources and updated information and things like that. Jamie and I are also part of Shape Maryland and Shape America. Shape Maryland is our state association of health and physical education teachers, and Shape America is our national association. We both participate in those trainings, and they provide information as well. So we get our information through our state collaborative as well as through the state association and national association.
And just a follow up to that is that training that FCPS or you elect to do, or is it, codified in your job description?
That is something that I do to make sure that Jamie and I both do. That Jamie and I both do to make sure that we are current on our profession and instruction and curriculum.
Yeah, Ms. Johnson, that applies to all of our curriculum specialists and other supervisors. Anything that's a COMAR mandate, our folks know it's their responsibility as content specialists to understand what those COMAR mandates are and ensure that we implement those in our school district. And a lot of times that does come down to some required training that is then passed on to our teachers. So that applies not only in the health and physical education area, but other areas as well.
And how do we track that that's occurring every year?
The training of teachers or the training of our staff?
And both. Do we have that documented somewhere that our specialists are being appropriately trained, and then our actual practitioners and teachers in the classrooms are being appropriately trained? I'm thinking of Title IX training that we do every year and that we do here, in FCPS, and you've gone through, say, schools, and then you do it. Like, how do we track that? So from an accountability standpoint.
The family life and substance abuse training are required for, and sexual abuse and assault are required. We do that when people are first hired or transferred in, and Jamie can speak, as elementary teachers are transferred between grade levels. Jamie brings them in and trains them. If we have time in professional learning, we do try to keep a session, but with professional learning decreasing and things like that, it's not as easy to keep update and provide as much information. One of the things that we are looking at is policies of practices and how we can support that instruction and make sure that we have some guidance documented to support instruction. So for example, as you know, some high school teachers don't teach health until fourth term. And if I see them in August, that training and the support may not be there. But if we can document and make sure that we have some of that information, teachers can go back to that set document and say, in family life, Brian told us to do this in August, but I don't really remember. I can go back to the policy of practices document and take a look, and just to remind myself of what I need to make sure that I'm doing in that course.
And then,
go ahead.
Jamie, so I know you had to hop back out and hop back in, Jamie. So Ms. Johnson's questions about is how do we keep track of the required trainings that occur for our staff? And you want to talk a little bit about what you do at the elementary level?
Sure. At the elementary level, first and foremost, our lessons are scripted because we have teachers that are not certified in this area. However, we have folks that are trained annually in this area. And so to answer the question specifically, teachers are asked to take part in a self-guided instructional module for training. And the final completion of that is very similar to our Safe Schools model that we use. We do run our trainings out of Google, the Google products that we have in the platform. And teachers are then directed to complete their trainings by a given window of time. That information is captured into a Google form that is kept by our office. And then we have a documented record from year to year as to the teachers that have been trained. And then those not complying with the training requirements are then given additional notifications until we do get everyone trained. Messages do go out to the principals to ensure that all staff are trained before instruction is given. And similar to what Brian mentioned, we have audio recorded as well as video recorded presentations that go into policy and practice, and that can serve as reminders for our teachers who, let's face it, if they get a training in August or early September, and then they don't deliver that instruction until March later that year, they may need to go back and refresh. So this is very much self-paced and self-guided. They can go back into the training modules and catch up on things that they may be unsure of.
Thank you, Jamie.
And one more then, and I think I'll be done. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Sue, if I can just add to that as a teacher on the other side, they always caught me, even when I changed elementary grades, they always knew. And then the teachers, and it's obviously improved with more resources now, but the teachers tend to be kind of self-correcting in that, oh, I haven't had the training yet. So, we would tend to try to schedule it for a grade when we had all been trained and that kind of thing. So I think the teachers also, you don't want to teach something if you have, especially these are very sensitive subjects. A lot of times, I taught third grade personal body safety for years, and every year some sort of, well, my mom does that or my dad does that. And then you're talking to the guidance counselor or you're having to call somebody. Anyway, so you don't want to do those without training from a teacher standpoint as well. So, but it sounds like, I know they were always on top of it and they always found me. So.
And I guess that's a follow on to yours, is just to ensure whose CPR and basic first aid training do we do, and is it standardized, and how do we track that CPR certifications are up to date? I'll just say from my volunteer life, I get a notice and I can't provide services in the field unless my EMT refresher is complete, or my CPR with AED for healthcare providers is up to date. So I'm wondering, do we have the same kind of mechanisms in the school system to ensure that everybody is trained and doesn't drop off the radar?
So we have a process. So we are an ASHI, American Safety and Health Institute training center. And so we actually support Frederick County Public Schools. Our training center actually supports all the coaches as well as the health and PE teachers. And our support person, Susie White, works with the athletics office in order to make sure and maintains that database. Jamie and I require that all of our teachers are on the same research cycle. So this year, it was an off year. So we actually did that training for all of our new teachers to make sure that they got onto the cycle, and we just told them, next year you're going to have to do the recertification again just to get onto our cycle to keep it easier for us. And once we tell them that, they understand and they're good to go. But we do maintain that, and we have a huge database of teachers, and then that it also includes the CPI as well. So Dana Falls and that group are also in that. So we're certifying all the crisis prevention intervention as well. Big database.
Thank you very much.
Yes, all very good to know. So I have one question with the updates on PE, that you can't substitute certain things. Does that affect, I know at Lynx that they've worked with getting outside credits by documenting something like dance, that kind of thing. Does that impact our ability to do that?
No, because those students are still completing our essential curriculum. So they meet with a PE teacher. Currently, it's Phil Rhodes. So they meet with Phil on a regular basis. They maintain logs. They have to complete our objectives, and they get all of that stuff done. It's just when it comes to the physical activity time and things like that, that's where that's substituted for outside stuff. But that's typically they use that fifth block opportunity in order to support Lynx and the CB, the program for physical education for Fitness for Life.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, when you talk about PE teachers being out away from the building, I know high school hard to do, but whenever we look at building plans, it's one of the things I look at, because I've seen, like Tuscarora Elementary, nice fields on the way other end of the school. And it just seems like, can we think about this as we put the school on a site, so that especially those PE teachers aren't spending half of their time walking a class out to the fields. It's just one of those little things that I actually look for. I forgot to look at bathrooms aren't in the classrooms anymore, but I look for the fields being close to the gym for the PE teachers. And yes, Liz and Emily, I've known them a long time. They graduated with my son from first class of Urbana High. They are great people. And the board will be recognizing the Twin Ridge honor. And I'll give Ms. Johnson a little insight. I'm going to ask for an agenda item to actually have adapted PE for them to come present to us later in the year. So hopefully maybe October, because they're doing such great work, and we want to let everybody know what they're doing. So I think that is all I had. Anything else?
So we only have one addition we'd like to make to the upcoming meetings. Our Striving Readers literacy grant is coming to a close. If you recall, it was a grant we got about 2.5 years ago, $2.8 million. And we have some end of the grant final reporting we'd love to come back and share with the committee. And if it fits, we'd like to add that at the November 10th meeting. So that's a Striving Readers final report. Does that sound good?
And I'm sorry, my internet kind of went in. Was that October?
No, November 10th,
November
where we
10th.
only have one item. So we'll make this the second item for that day.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Good. I wanted to make sure it blocked out the month. That was kind of important. So.
Yep. So that's all I have.
All right. Anything else anybody has? Thank you all. Appreciate it.
And can I just say, before we hang up, I just wanted to give a shout out to whoever is putting on the cross country meet for 4th and 5th grade students. Sorry for it got wet and wrinkled last Wednesday when my son was bringing it home, I think. And I love these kind of opportunities system wide for our youth to get together to participate in physical activity. And I'm going to be signing my son up. So.
And those are our I don't know. I know the elementary PE side of it. The elementary PE teachers rise and do a great job. And I'm sure the secondary has their part too.
We'll be doing that in 2 weeks. So Jamie's is on the 21st and secondary is on the 22nd and should be held at Frederick Key Stadium. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Johnson.
Yeah, and the only downside is sometimes they conflict with board meetings, and then we absolutely can't go watch them. But they are fun to go to. A lot of activities. So thank you for that's above and beyond. And so thank your people for us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you.
All right. Bye bye. See you next month.